So hi, very good morning to everyone. So we'll start our session. First question. Vinoba Bhave is engaged in supply of taxable services. He supplies some services in the month of April and collects IGST of rupees 15,50,000 rupees on the said supply on 18th April, right? So the supplier is engaged in a supply of taxable services and he has collected an IGST of 15,50,000 rupees on 18th April. However, he fails to pay the tax so collected within 30 days from the due date of payment of such tax. No show cause notice has been issued so far. Vinoba Bhave decides to discharge his tax liability before the show cause notice is issued to him. He is of the view that no penalty is leviable if the payment of tax is made before the issue of show cause notice. Therefore, he self-assesses his tax liability at rupees 15,50,000 and pays the same on 26th of June. Determine the interest and penalty, if any, payable by the respective SSE. So if you see here, the question is all about determination of interest and penalty amount, right? Now, if you see here, the SSE is a normal registered person. Month of April, he collected 15,50,000. Now, if you see for the month of April, the due date is 20th of May. So whatever the supplies I've done in the month of April, the time of supplies have occurred, I'm liable to pay tax on 20th of May when I file my GST 3B return, right? Now, the SSE has not paid this tax even after 30 days, right, of the due date. So if you see, it says that however, second line, if you see, however, he fails to pay the tax so collected within 30 days. So within 30 days, he has failed to pay the tax of 15,50,000 rupees of IGST. Now, he did not pay, but what before the department noticed this or issued a show cause notice, he voluntarily thought, let me pay this amount. So he paid on 26th of June. Now, the question is, show cause notice was not issued. So see, first point is interest. Interest is anyways payable because anyone who delays making payment of tax will have to pay interest. No one has any powers to waive off the interest liability. Please note, see, interest comes by default. Whenever you delay any making payment of tax, interest by default it will come, just like income tax or talk about any tax, GST. Once you delay, interest is automatic calculation, right? There is no waiver, there is no lesser percentage, higher percentage, like we have in penalty that if you pay in so-and-so days, if you pay about so-and-so days, penalty will keep increasing, etc. Interest is by default, right? So interest he has to pay. So 20th May was the due date. He did not pay, so he will have to pay interest. What about penalty? So the SSE, Mr. Inoba, he is of the view that penalty should not be leviable because he has self-assessed and paid this even before the department noticed it or the department issued a show cause notice. So it's a voluntary act. So penalty should not be levied. Now, logically, you might be right, but we have to go as per the law. So GST law, section 73 will have to go. What is section 73? Demand and adjudication, right? Demand and recovery. So assessment happens in section 73, 74 in GST law, right? So 73.11, it says that, see, within 30 days, if the SSE pays, okay, I repeat, within 30 days, if he pays, there is no penalty. But after 30 days, if he pays, even if there is no show cause, penalty is still applicable as per the law. Section 73, subsection 11 clearly says, even if you pay after 30 days, but before show cause notice, still penalty is applicable. If you want to avoid penalty, within 30 days, you should have paid. Right? So let's see. So as I said, interest is payable, right? So due date is 20th May. Since it is not paid, it is paid actually on 26th of June. So interest has to be paid the rate of 18%. Now, so see, this is the tax I have collected, but I have not paid. Okay. Now, what if I have not collected tax and not paid? What will be the rate of interest? See, here I have collected tax and not paid 18%. What if I don't collect and don't pay? But time of supply is arise because I have provided taxable supply, I have to pay GST to the government. What is the rate of interest for delay in payment of GST?
18%, same rate.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm just trying to confuse you because the word they have given is collected. So whether the tax is collected or not, when the liability arises, the rate of interest is 18%. Next, one more question I want to ask on interest rate. So let's say example, I took a blocked credit, which was ineligible. Some ineligible credit I availed. Then I realized I reversed that blocked credit. What is the rate of interest I will have to reverse with? So let's say example, I purchase a motor car, I claim credit of 1 lakh rupees. Later on, I realize I reverse that 1 lakh rupees input tax credit, but with how much interest I will have to pay on that? At what rate? What rate of interest will I have to pay?
18%, same rate.
Okay. Any other view? Right, Ravi. So you are right, absolutely right. The answer is only 18%. See, in section 50, subsection 3 in the interest, we had certain confusion on the rate of interest because if you would have seen the respective session on interest, rate of interest goes to 24% in certain scenario. Section 40 to 10, it talks about ITC taken based on GST 1, 2, 3. Those concepts got never implemented. So in effect, the rate of interest in GST law, whether I reverse ITC or whether I delay in making payment of output GST, rate is only 18%. And recently GST council meeting, they had clarified this also. Because practically at field level, certain department officers were demanding 24%, even if I reverse block credit. So there was a clarification. So rate of interest is only 18%, right? Whether I reverse my input tax credit or whether I delay in making payment of my output GST. Please understand and remember the rate of GST is always 18%, rate of delay, interest for interest, right? Okay, coming back to a question. So here it is paid late on 26th June. So interest should be applicable at the rate of 18%. So 15,50,000 the tax amount, 18% into number of days, right? So 37 days delay, 28,282 amount has to be paid. As I said, interest, no discussion at all because interest has to be paid. No one can give a waiver. I repeat, no one can give a waiver for interest. The officer does not have any power at all. Now we come to section 73 for this demand recovery assessment. So it says that where self-assessed tax or any amount collected as tax but not paid within 30 days, then option to pay tax before show cause notice to avoid penalty is not available. So after 30 days, if you pay, penalty is applicable whether show cause notice is issued or not issued. How much penalty? No, 10% of the tax amount. So 15,50,000 of that 10%, 1,55,500 or 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher has to be paid, right? So here 15,50,000 on that 10% is 1,55,500. So that amount I will have to pay, right, as penalty. Right, now we go to the next question. Narmada Enterprises, a registered person, pays CGST and SGST on a transaction considered by us as an intrastate supply. So intrastate, domestic supply within the state, I pay CGST, SGST. So Narmada Enterprises paid CGST and SGST. However, subsequently the said transaction is held to be an interstate supply. So what happened here was Narmada Enterprises and SSE treated a transaction, considered transaction to be an intrastate supply. So they paid CGST plus SGST. However, subsequently they discovered that this transaction is an interstate supply. 1 second. One second. My screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, right. So The taxpayer had paid CGST and SGST, but later on it came to know that, oh my God, this transaction was actually interstate supply. So examine the recourse available with Narmada Enterprises. Can anyone answer this question?
Sir, in this case, as per our earlier lecture, it was confirmed that, informed that he, in such case, if someone by mistake deposit IGST and the actual levy is CGST or SGST or vice versa, then there will be a no interest on that part. He can revise that payment. He can take the refund, or he can pass the adjust. He can take the refund and deposit the IGST.
Okay. So Ravi, is this possible in both the options? Like here I paid CGST instead of IGST. But what happened if there's a vice versa case where instead of CGST, SGST, I paid IGST? Either
Same,
case it will
sir.
apply?
Yeah, sir. This will
Fantastic.
apply.
Right. Absolutely right. So see, I will just brief again what Ravi told. So see, basically in this question, it was an interstate supply. IGST I had to pay, but I treated by mistake. See, why mistake can happen? See, because whether a transaction is an intra or interstate supply, we have dealt in IGST Act, right? So IGST, we discuss about place of supply. So place of supply, section 10 to 13, we have discussed that there are different rules to determine the place of supply. Example, if it's an event, it's an immovable property, it's a construction, or the residual clause is there, it's a travel. So based on different provision, the place of supply is determined. So many times it might happen that the assessees or taxpayers might incorrectly classify a transaction as intra versus inter. So here the transaction was IGST, but by mistake I treated it as an intrastate, and I paid CGST, SGST. So what I can do now, let's say example, I come to know it after 6 months. So what I can do is that CGST, SGST, which I paid by mistake incorrectly, I can claim refund. And now I can pay the correct tax, which is IGST. See, generally I said interest will come. The previous question I said that interest will come by default in every scenario. But in this scenario, section 17 CGST SGST Act and section 19 to IGST Act, it clearly says that in such a scenario, interest is not applicable. So the law, the act itself says that only if you treat a transaction incorrectly as intra versus inter or inter versus intra, and then you pay the correct tax, you need not pay along with interest. And whatever you paid extra incorrectly, that you can claim refund from the department, right? So that is the provision all about when we talk about inter and intrastate supply, that incorrectly. So it's vice versa. So in the question, you paid CGST SGST by mistake instead of IGST, but let's say you pay IGST instead of CGST SGST, same scenario, because this provision is given in the CGST SGST Act and same provision is given in the IGST Act also. So either case, if you do, you can claim refund and you can pay the correct tax without any interest, right? So section 77 of the CGST Act stipulates that a registered person who has paid the CGST and SGST, or the case may be CGST and UTGST on a transaction considered by him as an intrastate supply, but which is subsequently held to be an interstate supply, shall be refunded the amount of taxes so paid. See, I will repeat again, I have told in my earlier sessions also many times. Whenever you get a question in the exam, please mention the provision. See, here we saw the question. Please don't just write the answer that's stating, since it is treated as an interstate supply, by mistake it is intrastate, interest should not be applicable and refund can be claimed. If you write like this, you will not get full marks at all. Out of 5, you might get 2.5, 3 marks maximum. Always write the explanation, the provision. Facts of the case, what the provision says, what the law says, right? Then you analyze and conclude that yes, based on the provision, the facts of the case, this is the analysis and my conclusion, right? So please give steps to get the marks. You might know the answer, but please try to steal the entire marks, right? So please give steps, write provision, then conclude your answer, right? So similarly, IGST Act, section 19.2 of the IGST Act says vice versa, that if you have paid CGST, SGST instead of IGST, then you can claim refund and pay without interest. So thus, in the given case, Narmada Enterprises shall be refunded the amount of taxes so paid, and it shall not be required to pay an interest on the amount of IGST payable by it on the transaction wrongly considered by it earlier as an intrastate transaction. Discussed in detail. Now going to the next question. examine the implications as regards the bailability and quantum of punishment on prosecution. See, now we're talking all about arrest provision. It talks about prosecution in respect to the following cases pertaining to the month of December under the CGST Act. See, now they're not talking, the question is not talking about interest, not talking penalty. It talks about bailability. What is this bailability? Can anyone tell me? Examine the implications as regards the bailability. What the question is asking? Bailability. What that means?
Whether but if someone do something against the law, then whether the person is the if he do some which is not permitted in the law or not defined in the law, if he do something else which is a compliance issue or something, then uh, he will be arrested by the department. Okay, one is a bailable means some transaction where the person is not cognizant, something like that. In that case, the assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner can easily give the bail. But some transaction where the tax amount is more than 5 crore or some serious issue, then there will be no possibility directly by getting a bail from ACDC. He need to approach magistrate for getting that.
So basically, right, Ravi. So when we talk about bail, see, someone gets arrested, he goes for a bail, right?
Yes.
So bail means he can come out on bail. If he doesn't get a bail, then he will be under prosecution till the term is over. So basic meaning of bailability is that if someone is arrested, will he get a bail or not, right? So section 130 talks about that. It says certain offenses, if you do clause ABCD, it's non-bailable and cognizable. But other offenses, it is bailable and non-cognizable, right? So bailability in the sense, the section 132 itself defines that if you do such offense, you can get bail. If you do such other offense, you will not get bail, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Ravi. So examine the implications as regards the bailability and the quantum of punishment on prosecution, right? So whether the offense is bailable or not. So the question has two parts. Bailability, that means it's bailable or non-bailable offense. Then they're asking what is the quantum of punishment on the prosecution part. So how much period he can be arrested if he is liable to arrest, right? Now, first, see, in GST law, you might be seeing that last few years of GST got implemented. A lot of people are getting arrested in GST law. Unlike in the previous regime, you would have seen service tax, central excise, or sales tax regime, you would have heard very less number of cases who got arrested. But in GST, you will see now and then, frequently you might read newspaper or might see the media that various people are getting arrested in GST. So this provision becomes an important provision because practically it is applicable in the sense it is happening across the country. So many cases are being detected, fake invoice rackets are being busted by the GST department, and arrests are being happening. Arrests are happening across the country. So why this arrest happened, I've discussed in my sessions earlier, because there might be some evasion. A person would have evaded tax intentionally, unintentionally. He would have issued invoice without any supply of goods. A person would have received invoice without any goods just to avail more input tax credit, fake credits. So various reasons these arrests are happening across the country, right? Now, first part of the question. Mr. X collects 245 lakhs as tax from its clients and deposits 241 lakhs with the central government. It is found that he has falsified financial records and has not maintained proper records. So two parts of this question, two parts. One is he has collected 2 crore 45 lakhs as tax from the clients. Out of that, he has deposited only 2 crore 41 lakhs, short of 4 lakh rupees. Next part of the question is he has further falsified his financial records. So a fraudulent activity has been done by him. He has falsified his financial records and has not maintained proper records, right? This is the first question. Next, Mr. Y collects 5 crore 50 lakhs. So 550 lakhs as tax from its clients, but deposits only 30 lakhs with the central government. So now, two questions. So one, 4 lakh short paid and he has falsified records. Next is he has not paid 5 crore 20 lakhs. He has paid only 30 lakhs to the government out of the 5.5 crores collection. So what will be the implications with regards to the punishment and prosecution of X and Y for the offenses. What would be the position if X and Y repeat the offenses? It is assumed that offenses are proved in the court of law, right? So it has come in RTP May 2020, it has come in past exam question, it has come in MTP November 2018 as well, many times. As I said, arrest becomes an important feature because in GST law, so many arrests are happening across the country on miscompliances in GST law, right? So now anyone wants to make an attempt apart from Ravi? Other than Ravi, anyone wants to make an attempt to answer any of these questions? One or two? You can make an attempt. You might be right, you might be wrong. That's no problem at all. You can try to make an attempt. Just think about the provision. Try to recollect something you might recollect from the sessions. Or logically, you can think and tell why someone should get arrested or get bailed or not. What could be the amount when the arrest provisions are tracked? Okay. Ravi, you want to make an attempt?
Yes, sir. I can try. In
Yeah.
case of first case, X collect 245 and deposit 241 lakh rupees, which means less than 2 crore rupees. In that, if any offense, if any tax, short deposit by less than 2 crore, then there will be a no uh, arrest, as per the provision. And in the second case, he maintained the false record. In that case, he can be arrested by the department up to 6 months, and also get the penalty. Also, department will charge a penalty on this.
Okay. Second one?
In second one, the amount is more than 5 crore, then he will be arrested by the department up to 6 months. And also a penalty for the amount.
Okay. And offense is bailable or non-bailable?
In second case, no, it is not bailable.
Okay. Thanks, Ravi. So majority of your answers were right. Majority of them were right. So I will revisit. I will come to the first part of the question. X collects 245 lakhs as tax from its clients. So Ravi,
yeah,
just to understand, how do you revise your provisions?
Revise means just I am whatever the in the book, I try to read that whenever I got the time.
It was fantastic. I'm surprised that you are remembering the numbers and everything, which is a little difficult to remember as such. Until unless you revise, you cannot remember these.
During my session, whatever you told, I generally note down all the things. Okay? And especially in this, like you, in this case, especially there is a table in which some offense are bailable, non-bailable, all those things. I stop the video and note down all those things.
Fantastic, Ravi. Fantastic. See, why I have asked Ravi is for others to know that, see, please try to recollect, please try to revise your provisions. Why I have asked the Ravi, the reason is I want other participants also to please note this and start working on the same lines, or you might have your own innovative methods of learning. But please try to do that because it is very important for us to remember the provisions, because in your subject, you don't have only one subject of indirect tax laws. You have various subjects. So you have to remember so many things in different subjects, right? So revision is very, very important. You might learn and read everything, but if you don't revise, then everything might get messed up at the end of the exams. When you are nearing your exams, things might really get messed up because you will have so many things to remember, so many things to recollect, and so many subjects, right? So please keep revising so that these numbers, these provisions somewhere stay in your mind. And just before exams, if you just have a look at it, you will be able to refresh your memories on those provisions, right? So very, very important that you revise. See, believe me, CA is not a very difficult exam at all. But why it becomes difficult is we make it because we don't revise, correct? We don't revise, we just read at once and leave it. Planning is very important. Planning and execution is very, very important if you want to clear CA exams. I repeat, exams are not difficult as being said. We make it difficult because we generally study during the last 3 or 4 months of our preparation, right? When the exams come in last 3-4 months, definitely that is not enough to study, right? For your exams to clear your exams. It takes time. When you study in school also, 11th standard, 12th standard, you cleared. During the year, we used to study. During the year, we used to have various exams, quarterly, midterm, half-yearly exams. So many exams used to happen, right? So we keep reading, revising on a periodical basis. But in CA, it doesn't happen, right? We don't write any exams. We don't revise. At the end of the exams, 3 months, we go study and go. So it becomes difficult to clear. So humble advice, please. See, you can see Ravi, because every session I can see him, every question is able to give certain views. Many times he's right, at least sometimes he's able to share some provisions out of it, because it clearly shows he's revising regularly various subjects, right? So I would request everyone, please start revising. Don't take it lightly, because if you reach the last moment, that time it might be too late. So please start realizing, start revising. Not only indirect tax, I'm talking for every subject. Please start revising so that you remember the provisions, and at the end of the exams, during the exams, the revision will help you out to clear them, right? So coming back to my question, so the
And sir,
first part of the question is, see, the
sir, one
amount is
more,
245 lakhs. He has
sir,
paid 5 lakhs short. Yeah, 4 lakhs short he has paid, right? See, section 132 talks about arrest, okay, punishment for arrest. So here it has slab. So there are some 12 offenses given. Say that if you do A, B, C, D, there are 12 offenses. If you do this, then arrest can apply, right? So if someone does those 12 offenses, one of the offense, the clause D in that, one of the offenses that you collect tax, I repeat, you collect tax, but don't pay the government more than 3 months. So tax is not paid for more than 3 months to the government, outstanding for more than 3 months. That is one of the offense in that. The other offenses, like, let's say example, I'm a company, I've received some invoices from my suppliers, and it's a fake invoice. That means the vendors have not supplied goods to me. They have just given me an invoice. So it's not a genuine transaction, right? Now, okay, let me cross question this. Which provision in input tax credit chapter says that without receiving goods, you cannot take credit? Can anyone recollect? Which provision in input tax credit chapter says without receipt of goods, you cannot take credit? I'll give a hint. There are 4 conditions to avail input tax credit. Very, very important. There are 4 conditions to claim input tax credit in the entire GST law. 4 conditions if you want to claim credit. One of the condition is this. Can anyone recollect? What are those 4 conditions? Can anyone recollect? Or any one condition, any 2 conditions someone can recollect?
Yeah, one is this one key, without invoice, the vendor cannot take a claim. And second, without actual receipt of actual material, he cannot take a claim. He cannot take a ITC claim.
Yeah. So basically, one is without document, you cannot take credit. That means invoice, debit note, etc. Second is without receipt of goods, you cannot take credit. Third is, see, first is return of goods. I should receive goods. I should receive invoice. Supplier should also pay tax. See, one of the condition is, yes, if I want to avail any input tax credit, my supplier who has levied tax should pay the tax. And fourth condition is return should be filed to claim this credit. So there are 4 conditions. One of the condition is without receipt of goods, you cannot take credit, right? So anyway, section 2 ITC chapter is defaulted here. So in this section 132 also it says that if you receive invoice without receipt of goods on which you claim credit, it is a serious offense. So out of this 12 serious offense, one of the offense is this, which attracts arrest provisions. But here, if you see, the amount itself is 4 lakh rupees, and hence it cannot be arrested because it is way below the amount. So in section 132, if you see, they given the criteria, if it is more than 5 crores, arrest is attracted for up to 5 years. And with fine, like this, right? So since this one is 4 lakhs, arrest provision does not attract here because amount is very small, below the threshold limit. Second part of this question. It is found that he has falsified financial records and has not maintained proper records. So 132, if you see, there are 3 provisions that if you do, there's a fraud of above 5 crores, then arrest up to 5 years. Then if the amount is 2 to 5 crores, then there is an arrest provision of 3 years, etc. Up to 3 years. Then if it is 1 to 2 crores, then it talks about up to 1 year. So we have different criteria given, right? Now, it says below that the fourth provision says that in some other cases like GF clause, etc., in which falsified records comes in, they're saying arrest can happen for a period up to 6 months, right? So if someone has falsified financial record, that means there is no monetary fraud. Someone has falsified records. For monetary, you are giving him imprisonment, right? So if someone has just falsified financial records, for that the provision says that he can be arrested for a period of up to 6 months, or with fine, or both. See, if someone does a financial fraud amount wise more than 5 crores, then it is 5 years and fine, and it is and, right? So if someone does a financial fraud of more than 2 crores, 2 to 5 crores, then arrest up to 3 years and fine, right? So it's all about and fine. But in case it is here, it is or fine or both. So please remember and or difference, right? So that was the first question. We go to the next question. Mr. Y collects 550 lakhs but deposits only 30 lakhs. Now, so here the liability, I already said in the first question, since if the liability is more than 5 crores, 12 offenses under section 132, and the liability is more than 5 crores, in that case, the liability is more than 5 crores, the arrest is up to 5 years and fine. So here the imprisonment can happen up to 5 years along with a fine. Now, bailable, non-bailable, it is non-bailable because the law says, the provision says, section 132, the first 4 clauses, if someone does a fraud, it is non-bailable offense, so he cannot be granted a bail. Right? So let's see. Now, what happens if there's a repeat offense? If someone does a repeat offense, see, one more question here. In the same question, there's another question down. That what happens if they do a repeat offense? So let's say example, Mr. X or Y got arrested. They went inside, they got arrested, they came back after the period was over. After coming out, they again did the same offense. See, you might wonder why someone will do like this. People have done like this. In last 4 to 5 years of GST law, there have been cases where people did some fake invoice transaction, fraudulent transaction. They got arrested. After the term was over, they came back, came out. Again, they did the same transaction, same fraud. So it is possible, right? So if someone does the same fraud, then on the repeat offense, imprisonment up to 5 years again can apply. Let's see. So section 132, failure to pay any amount of tax as tax beyond 3 months from the date of payment is punishable with imprisonment and a fine provided the amount of tax evades at least 100 lakh rupees. Therefore, failure to deposit 4 lakhs cannot be punishable with imprisonment. Further, falsification is punishable for imprisonment up to, as I said, up to 6 months or fine or both, as I said, right? And the said offense is bailable in terms of section 132(4). Because I said only first 4 offenses are non-bailable. So this offense of falsification of records is bailable. Next, for 5 years, I mean to say for amount more than 5 crores, 5 years, right? So failure to pay the amount of tax beyond 3 months is punishable with an imprisonment up to 5 years and with fine if that amount of tax evades 500 lakhs. So in the second question, Mr. Y, out of 5.5 crores, he has paid only 30 lakhs, so it is more than 5 crores, so he can be liable for imprisonment up to 5 years and with fine, right? Now, so since the amount of tax evaded exceeds 500 lakhs, he is liable for imprisonment up to 5 years and with fine. It is assumed that the amount of 5520 lakhs collected as tax is not paid to the government beyond 3 months. Further, the imprisonment shall be 6 months in the absence of adequate reasons to be recorded. So see, if there are no adequate reasons to be recorded, on the contrary, then but still minimum 6 months imprisonment will be applicable. And as we discussed, this offense is non-bailable. As I said, the first 4 offenses in the section, and this is the 4th offense, that collecting tax not paying beyond 3 months is a non-bailable offense. And what happens if they repeat the offense? So if they repeat the offense, they shall be punishable for second and every subsequent offense with imprisonment up to 5 years and with fine. Right? Next question number 4. Nirmal Private Limited, registered in Vasai, Maharashtra, is engaged in supply of taxable goods and services. In the month of April, it sold goods worth rupees 5 lakhs to Suraksha Enterprises and collected 28% of the said goods from the buyer, right? However, The actual rate of tax applicable was 18%. So the applicable tax was 18%, but he collected 28%. Let's see what he did with that excess 10%. So Nirmal Private Limited deposits tax at 18%. Great. Okay. He collected 28, but he deposited only 18 on the due date and retained the remaining tax amount. Okay. So he thought it is bonus for him. So he collected 28%, retained 10%, and paid only 18% to the government. So determine the amount of penalty, if any, that can be imposed on Nirmal Private Limited. Right. So smart taxpayer, right? He kept that is like a bonus 10% with him, the public money, and 18% only paid to the government. So what penalty can be imposed on him? So when you talk about penalty, section 122 applicable. Section 122 offenses penalty chapter. Section 122, if you see that 21 to 22 offenses which are listed, that if anyone does any of these offenses, is the penalty which can be equal to the tax amount, right? Let's see. So there's another question here, second part of the question. Bindu Sir, Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Ashoka Solutions Limited, is issued a summon to appear before the Central Tax Officer to produce the books of accounts of Ashoka Solutions Limited in an inquiry conducted on the said company. Determine the amount of penalty, if any, that may be imposed on Bindu Sir if he fails to appear before the Central Tax Officer. So the second question is saying that a summon was issued. A summon was issued to the CEO of a company and he failed to appear on the said date of summon. So what is summon basically? Summon, see, under the Indian Penal Code, a summon can be issued, right? Where the officer summons a person to come and appear with in front of him with the prescribed records, right? And a summon is issued even GST law under the IPC code. So a person is liable to appear on the date of summon. And as per the IPC code, if you see, if a person does not appear for more than 3 summon, a person can be liable for arrest, right? So summon is very, very important. So in this question, it says, Bindu Sir, the CEO was summoned, but he did not appear before the Central Tax Officer. So let's see what penalty can be imposed on him. You remember section 122 talks about that 4 offenses. One of them is summon and the penalty will be 25,000. Let's see. So first, section 122, if someone collects tax but does not pay beyond 3 months. So penalty is here, arrest is under 132, penalty is under section 122. So someone does not pay tax for more than 3 months, liable to penalty of rupees 10,000 or an amount equivalent to the tax evaded, which is higher. As I said, section 122, remember, 122 always talks about amount equal to the amount, penalty equal to the amount, tax amount, right? So 10,000 or amount equal to the tax evaded, whichever is higher. So tax amount evaded is the 10% difference. 28 he collected, 18 he paid. The difference tax 10% is the tax amount which is evading, right? So that amount or 10,000, whichever is higher. So in the given case, since Nirmal Private Limited has collected tax at a wrong rate but fails to deposit the full tax to the government, that is deposits only 18%. So the amount of penalty imposed shall be 10,000 or the amount equal to the tax evaded, which works out to 50,000 rupees, right? Because on 5 lakh rupees is the value, so on that 10% comes to 50,000. So 10,000 or 50,000, whichever is higher, you will have to pay. Second part of the question, summon. So under section 122, subsection 3, there are 4 clauses, A, B, C, D. This is the D clause. Stipulates that any person who fails to appear before the officer when issued with a summon for appearance to give evidence or produce a document is liable to penalty which may extend to rupees 25,000 rupees. Therefore, penalty of 25,000 can be imposed on Bindu Sir in the given case. Right? So the two question, section 122, penalty equal to the amount of tax evaded or 10,000 is higher. And second part of the question, if someone does not appear for the summon, 25,000 is a flat penalty, right? Up to 20, done, okay. So next question, question number 5. Mr. A filed an appeal before the appellate tribunal against an order of the appellate authority where the issue involved relates to place of supply. See, so we have discussed, right? When you talk about appeal mechanism, when when we get a show cause notice, we go to the appellate authority. And when the decision comes against us, we go to the appellate tribunal, then High Court, then Supreme Court, right? So here they are saying that Mr. A filed an appeal before the appellate tribunal, okay, and the issue was relating to place of supply. The order of the appellate tribunal was also in the favor of the department. So Mr. A lost the case even in appellate tribunal. Now Mr. A wants to file an appeal against the decision of the appellate authority as he feels the stand taken by him is correct. You are required to advise him suitably with regard to an appeal before the appellate forum higher than the appellate tribunal. Right. So anyone wants to answer this? So Mr. A lost the appeal before the appellate tribunal. So now he wants to go to the higher forum. Which forum he can go to now? Can anyone?
National or regional branch?
No, so basically they are saying after appellate forum, which is appellate authority, he lost the case in appellate. So after appellate tribunal, we can go to his either High Court or Supreme Court. So where he can go?
In this case, he will go Supreme Court because the case is pertaining to place of supply.
Fantastic, Ravi. Fantastic. Super. Right. Super. So rightly said by Ravi. Here the SSC, Mr. X, A will have to go directly to Supreme Court. Why we will discuss now. So if you see in appellate tribunal chapter we have discussed, in the appeals chapter we've discussed, in appellate tribunal there can be area bench, right, or a state bench, or there can be national bench or regional bench, right? So if the case is taken up by is heard by area or state bench of appellate tribunal, then the case will go to the High Court, right? After that, if the SSC loses the case, he can go to the High Court, provided it involves a substantial question of law, because High Court will not hear every case, right? It should involve something which is questioning the law. There's a substantial question of law, right? Then it will be permitted to go to the High Court. But if a case is heard by a national bench or regional bench of appellate tribunal, then it will go directly to the Supreme Court and not to the High Court, right? So this is one part of the provision. Next part of the provision here is any issue, the provision section 109 appellate tribunal, it says that any issue related to place of supply will be heard only by national or regional bench. I repeat, any issue pertaining to place, why and all, every reason we have discussed in the session, in our discussion we have discussed why national bench will hear place of supply issues, etc. So place of supply issue can be heard only by national bench or regional bench, and any case heard by national or regional bench will go directly to the Supreme Court. So here, since the issue is pertaining to place of supply, the issue would have been heard only by regional or national bench of appellate tribunal, and if the issue is heard by them, it can go directly to Supreme Court. It will not go to the High Court, right? So this was all about provision. Let's discuss the answer. Let's see the answer as well. So section 117, an appeal against the order of passed by state bench or area bench of tribunal would lie to the High Court. If High Court is satisfied that it involves a substantial question of law. However, appeals against orders passed by national bench or regional bench would lie to the Supreme Court and not High Court. And as per section 109(5) of this act, only national bench or regional bench can decide appeals where one of the issues involved is place of supply. Since in the given question, the issue involved in Mr. A's case relates to place of supply, the appeal in this case would be decided by regional bench or national bench. Thus, Mr. A will have to file an appeal with the Supreme Court and not High Court. So what I've discussed is given. Let's go to the next and the last question. Briefly examine whether the appeal or review petition application filed. So we see after appeal, there's a reviewing authority, right? Reviewing authority we discussed in appeals chapter. So briefly examine whether the appeal or review application filed in the following independent cases is within the time limit prescribed under the GST law. So this question is all about time limit to file appeal or to file review petition. Time limit. The question is completely on time limit. First question. First part of the question. The adjudicating authority issued the adjudication order on 23rd April, and the same is communicated to the taxpayer on 28th April. Mr. X is aggrieved by the order of the adjudicating authority and filed an appeal to the appellate authority on 26th July. Can anyone tell me within how many months we have to file an appeal?
Can I go?
Yeah.
In case if the SSC wants to file an appeal, he is having a time of 3 months. And if the department is going to file an appeal, then the time is 6 months. And 1 month in both the cases, there will be a extended by the appellate authority, respective appellate authority.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you. Now, another part of this question. So in this question, there is basically they've tried to twist this question by giving two dates. So whatever the provision Ravi said was completely right. In the question, they have tried to confuse with two dates. They have said 23rd April and 28th April. So apart from Ravi, can anyone answer the time limit which Ravi said will apply from 23rd April we have to calculate, or from 28th April? Can anyone apart from Ravi say from which date we have to calculate?
April it is.
Thanks, Vinita. Vanita, I was wondering where are you today? Okay. So rightly said by Vanita that she said it is 28th April. See, logically also if you think it's right? Because the department might issue an order anytime, but when I am receiving, I should have that 6 months time to apply, right? So when I receive from that date only, it will apply. Because if you calculate from 28th April, 3 months, it comes to May, June, July, 28th July. So 26th is within the time limit. But if you start from 23rd April, then it goes beyond 3 months, right? So one of the area where the examiner wanted to twist here is 23rd or 28th April. So it should be calculated from 28th April only. Next question is, the adjudicating authority passed the order on 3rd March. Communicated same day to the commissioner also. Now the commissioner directs his subordinate officer to file a review application with the appellate authority. So reviewing authority, remember review for review. The subordinate officer filed the review application on 23rd September. Right. So can anyone tell, apart from Ravi, within how many months the commissioner can direct his subordinate officer to file a review application? Within how many months? Ravi, you want to answer?
So 6 months.
Yeah, fantastic. So it is 6 months. So and 1 month can be allowed additional if substantial reasons are given. Substantial reasons are given for the delay. So 3rd March means 6 months to be calculated. It will be 3rd of September. So it is filed after 6 months. So here also for review, it is to be filed within 6 months. So let's see. Let's go to the provisions. First part of the question was time limit. So Ravi rightly said it is 3 months and 1 month extra can be given if there is a sufficient cause for delay, right? So 3 months expires, we have to calculate from 28th April, not 23rd April. So 28th April, if we calculate, the time limit is still up to 28th July. And the taxpayer filed the appeal on 26th July. So it was well within the time limit. He does not even require an extension. He need not apply extension. So well within the time limit, he is applied. So it is as per the time limit, no problem. Second part of the question, the commissioner may order any subordinate officer to apply to the appellate authority for review within 6 months, right? So here it is delayed. So the appellate authority even can condone the delay in filing of appeal by 1 month if there was a sufficient cause for delay. So in the present case, the commissioner directs a subordinate officer to file a review application with the appellate authority. But however, the subordinate officer has filed on 23rd September, which is after the period of 6 months. Thus, in the given case, appeal has not been filed within the time limit. However, appellate authority can condone the delay if it is satisfied with the sufficient cause for. So the last question, which is a theoretical question, explain the provisions relating to rectification of errors apparent on the face of record under section 161. So basically, I'll give a hint. See, basically, when the orders are being passed, let's say appellate authority passed an order or appellate authority passed an order, and after the order is passed, either the authority himself notices that there is an error in the order, or the taxpayer or the GST authorities point out that, look, there is an error in the order. Within how much time they can rectify this? Can anyone answer this question?
So within 3 months, if someone inform him, then 3 months, and within 3 months, suppose SSC and departments or some officer wants that 3 months is the time limit in which he can inform to department, this appellate authority or respective department, there is a error in the calculation or something, and within that period, and the maximum time limit, I think 6 months, within that this rectification can be given.
Okay. And there's one last small point, that if there is some clerical mistake, then the time limit will not apply. But Ravi, hats off to you, man. Seriously, I'm really surprised that you answered this question, because these are all very minute provisions. See, generally people will pay focus on supply chapter, input tax credit, place of supply, reverse charge, etc. But when we talk about the other provisions, generally people tend to forget these provisions. Hats off to you, and
Thanks,
all the best.
Yeah, it's basically your method of teaching is, sir, very well, and you invest good amount of time each and every critical things, or which is very helpful, and giving a good good examples, and which is basically the main thing. Based on that, we are able to remember these things.
Great, Ravi. Thank you. Thanks for such a wonderful feedback. I would want you to see in one of the toppers in GST, indirect taxes in our country, right?
Thanks. Thanks.
Guys, others also can take it very positively. See, I'm that kind of a person that if someone is growing, I don't feel jealous of it, and I don't feel demotivated, but I feel more motivated, thinking that yes, I know I also need to improve myself. So others also, please take it in a very positive way, that if someone is doing, why not me? So take it a good spirit, and don't think it is late. Still you can do it. You have abundant time even now. So please try to gear up, try to revise your provisions. Still you have a lot of time, right? Keep up the spirit and try to revise, read, study, revise, right? So coming to this question, so rightly said by Ravi, I'm really surprised, but anyways, so section 161 lays down that any authority who has passed or issued any decision or order or notice or certificate or any document may rectify any error which is apparent on the face of the record in such decision or order or notice or certificate or any other document. So if someone authority notices, sees that notices either on its own motion, that means by itself, or where such error is brought to its notice by any GST officer or by the affected person, that means the taxpayer, within a period of 3 months. So if anyone points out to them within 3 months, they can rectify, or they can themselves do it within 6 months. So maximum time limit is up to 6 months. So within 3 months, at the GST officer, the department side or the taxpayer side, they can bring to the notice that yes, this is to be rectified. However, no such rectification shall be made after a period of 6 months from the date of issue of such order or notice. So 6 months is the maximum time limit applicable in either case, whether they notice or the taxpayer, whatever. Maximum umbrella bracket is given up to 6 months. They can rectify. Last sentence. Further, the set period in 6 months shall not apply in such cases where the rectification is purely in the nature of correction of a clerical or arithmetical error arising from any accidental slip or omission. So saying if there is an error of omission, basically, which is very clerical in nature, then this time limit of 6 months will not apply. So just one last point on that, that principles of natural justice should be followed by the authority carrying out such rectifications. Natural justice in the sense that you should see from the broader perspective, right? If some error is made, think from a broader perspective, and error can be rectified, which is apparent on record.